Before we start, I have two worksheets. There's a monthly planning worksheet and a weekly planning worksheet. You can download those from the description if you want. I like making worksheets, what can I say? If you're a student and you're trying to balance studying, professional development, friendships, family, relationship, exercise, cooking, cleaning, and also just turning your brain off once in a while, that would be nice. You need a weekly planning routine. So I'm going to show you what I do every single Sunday like clockwork to plan out a productive week. The first step is to review the past week. So I like to say, if you never look at what you did in the past and how that worked for you, then how are you gonna improve in the future? So the first thing I do is, if for whatever reason at some point in the week I missed a journal entry, I go into day one and I update that. And then I create a new entry from my weekly review template. I follow the same process every week, so it's nice to just be able to automatically create this template. This is where I write down everything from the rest of the process that you'll see. Of course, you can do this on paper too. I used to do it on paper, but I find that I type faster, and also when it's digital, it's easier to look back at my past weekly reviews and compare them. So I have my weekly review open in a separate window on one side of the screen, and then I'm reading through my journal entries from the week on the other side. And from those entries, I pull and summarize what went well that week, what did not go so well, and maybe also what can I do to improve those things that didn't go so well. And then I do this thing called time tracking. I use this app called Now Then Pro, and basically throughout the week, I am tracking how much time I spend on different activities. This is definitely like an extra credit step. I don't know many people who do this, but I personally find it very helpful for being aware of how much time I'm spending on things and also avoiding multitasking. So I look at my summary for the week and I write down the hours and the percentages that I spend on different activities. I'm not writing down everything. A lot of it I just don't care about, but I'm mostly interested in how much time I spend on schoolwork, on YouTube stuff, and socializing. Also, like cooking and cleaning, I'm always curious about because they tend to hover at around 5 hours each. And it's just interesting to see how that changes from week to week. Again, most people don't do this. This is not super necessary, but if you're a time management nerd like I am, this might be interesting to you. Then I try to write down some reflections on that. Maybe last week I spent a lot of time on schoolwork. So was that because I was stuck on something? How can I fix that? Or is there just a lot of schoolwork right now? Or maybe I didn't spend very much time with my friends last week. So in this upcoming week, what can I schedule in order to devote more time to my friendships? Next, I review the goals that I set for myself for the month. So I want to see how each of them is progressing. I love cute little emojis, so I like to put a green, yellow, or red emoji to visually track how it's going. Is it on track? Is it in danger? Or is it going very, very badly? And then how is each area of my life doing? So this list of areas of my life is something that I wrote for myself. Maybe you want to write a slightly different list. This is what I use when I'm doing my monthly planning, and I assign a rating to each of these categories and really look at each of them in depth. For the weekly review, I don't do all of that. I just write some quick little notes, only if I feel like I have something to say about that category. So for example, this week in the friends category, I was very proud of myself because I made a new friend. I called two of my friends from home, and I also had a dinner with some friends that I haven't caught up with in a while. So I'm just writing anything that stands out to me, any category that went particularly well or particularly not so well. The next stage of the process I like to call the catch up and brain dump. So this is where we're collecting all the little bits and pieces of information, all the thoughts in our head that we have to organize for the upcoming week, and we're putting it all into a brain dump. First, I want to either get to inbox 0, which means that I've responded to all my emails and messages, or if that would take too long, I want to add them as tasks to my brain dump list. Respond to this friend, respond to that email. Then I go over to iCal and I click 2 weeks back and 4 weeks forward to see if any of those events remind me of anything that I need to do. So maybe last week I had a meeting and oh yeah, I needed to do something to follow up for that meeting. Add that to my brain dump. Maybe in 3 weeks I have a big deadline for school, so I need to start working on that this week. or there's a birthday coming up that I need to get a gift for. Everything goes in the brain dump. We are not organizing anything yet. We're just making a huge list. Then I have this brain dump sticky on my desktop. I know it's a lot of brain dumps, but this brain dump is where I write down any idea or to-do that pops into my head during the week. This could be something I just remembered I need to buy, or a link to a YouTube video I want to watch later, literally anything. But the point is that when I'm working on something else and then something totally unrelated pops into my head, I just write it down there. It takes a few seconds. I'll worry later about what to do with that information, but I know that it won't be forgotten. So I process everything in that list. If it was something I needed to buy, I'll add it to my groceries list. If it's that YouTube video link and I still want to watch it, I'll add it to a watch list. And then a lot of those things just end up in the brain dump. On that same sticky note, I have a list called waiting for. This is where I write down anything I'm waiting for. So this could be a response to an email that I send, package delivery, someone to confirm some plans with me. So I might make a note in my brain dump to follow up with that person, or maybe they already responded and I just forgot to cross it off my list. Then I check my bank accounts. So I check my credit card every day and I add that stuff to my budgeting app, but my checking account and my Spanish bank account, I use those way less, so I check them on a less frequent basis, but I do want to make sure I'm checking them regularly, so Sunday is a good time. I quickly scroll through my groceries list and see if there's anything I need to get. This is in my Notion adulting dashboard template if you're interested. That's also free. Then I check what projects I have going on right now. So this is on the same sticky note where I have my goals for the month. Projects are where I write down anything that I'm working on that has multiple steps and usually a deadline. Any video, for example, that I'm working on is always a project because that has many steps like scripting, planning the B-roll, shooting, editing, uploading, etc. So I look at any projects that I have right now and then I write in my brain dump any of the steps that I should be working on this week. Finally, to finish up this process, I have a trigger list. So the concept of a trigger list comes from the Getting Things Done system by David Allen, so all credit goes to him. Basically, it is a list of all of your responsibilities, any category of your life for which you might have to do something. So you write your own list. Mine has things like each of the classes that I'm taking, different things that I might have to do for my YouTube channel, chores or errands, people in my life that are important to me. So the idea is that you go through this list one by one and you'll be reminded of any to-dos that you might have otherwise forgotten about. The weekly planning routine evolves throughout your life. So it's different if I'm currently in the school year versus if I'm on break. It's different now that I'm in a relationship versus when I wasn't and I only had my calendar to think about for the most part. So right now in this season of my life, what I have at the beginning of my trigger list is a few things that I need to put onto my calendar before everything else. So me and my boyfriend will look at our class schedules and decide what days we want to have lunch together, what days we're going to the gym together, and anything else that we want to do that week. We share a calendar so that we can both keep track of these events. And then to make sure that I don't forget, I immediately book my reservations for those gym times. And I also add to my to-do list to pack my gym bag in the morning and to unpack it as soon as I get home. Then I'm studying French right now, so I schedule 2 classes into my week, and then in my brain dump, I write down that I also need some time to review those lessons at some point. And then we move on to all the other categories. Oh, I forgot to mention that when I get to the school category of my trigger list, one of the things I do is I update our class's homework Google Doc. I talked about this in my preparing for the academic year video. So now that I have this big, overwhelming list of things to do, it's time to plan. First thing I do is I take all of my calendar events and I plug them into Tweak. Wait, you say, what is Tweak? You have never mentioned it before. So for a really long time, I was using a to-do list app called To Do, and I was also talking about it a lot. If you've watched this channel before, you could not have missed it, but I wanted to just save some money and try a free alternative. So Tweak has a paid version and a free version. I've been getting by just fine with the free one. It's basically a very simple drag and drop to-do list where you add tasks to the day of the week and then move them around wherever you want. So I put my events in all caps and in bright yellow, and the reason that I like to have my events not only in my calendar but also in my to-do list is because I like to arrange my to-dos around my events. So if I have a class at 2 p.m., I want to set a goal for what I want to accomplish before I go to class, and so I put all of those to-dos before the yellow class heading. I feel like one of those people directing airplanes. So once all of those obligatory events are set, I block out how I'll spend the rest of my time. This is what we call time blocking. So basically, I believe that instead of just writing a really long to-do list and trying to guess whether or not it's realistic to complete it in the span of a week, you should actually estimate how long everything will take and schedule it into your calendar and have a plan for when it will get done. So when I'm looking at my brain dump, I look at the most difficult stuff first. And by difficult, I mean lots of brain power. So usually for me, that means readings for class, writing essays, writing video scripts, really just reading and writing for me. Literacy requires a lot of brain power, and I schedule that work in the mornings because I am a morning person. I know I do my best work in the mornings. But that's me, so you have to know your working style. I also usually don't work on the same thing for more than 1.5 hours, 2 hours maximum, because I know after that my brain will be fried and I will not be as effective. So if I have a really long demanding task, it's much better to cut it up into chunks and spread it out across the days. So once all the deep work is blocked into the calendar, I also add it to the to-do list for the corresponding day, and I check those things off the brain dump. The next thing that I look for in my brain dump is anything else that is a big task but doesn't require as much brain power. So this could be other kinds of easier school assignments, filming videos, editing videos, etc. So I do the same thing. I schedule it in somewhere that I have space, add it to the to-do list, check. And then everything else that's left over is these little tiny tasks, errands that you have to run. So I think having this big picture overview of your week helps you figure out how to most efficiently slot those things in somewhere. Let's say, for example, that you're having friends over for dinner Friday evening and you need to pick up some groceries before then. And you also need to go to the post office at some point during the week. So you can combine those two errands, and maybe on your calendar you see that you are getting a lot of homework done, a lot of deep work on Thursday. So maybe going outside, combining those two errands into one trip would be a very nice break for your brain on Thursday. And that is basically it. By the end of this process, you have taken care of everything that was on your mind, everything you had to do. You now have a time-blocked calendar that you simply have to follow during the week. You no longer have to make any decisions of what to do and when. And you have a to-do list for every day. Like, you, at this point, have no choice but to slay the week. And now, for the last section of this video, for my last trick, I will give you some miscellaneous tips for making this work better. Firstly, a lot of people ask me, how do you estimate how long things will take? This is a very good question because we humans are susceptible to the planning fallacy. We usually think that things will take less time than they actually do. However, this is something that you can get better at. The more that you do time blocking and the more that you actually follow through with these schedules that you create for yourself, especially if you also do time tracking, you will get better and better at guessing and estimating, and honestly, you reach a point where you're pretty much accurate at most of the things that you're estimating. Something that might be a little hard to estimate is schoolwork, especially if you have group projects or you have assignments that you don't know about until like 2 days before they're due. For that, I suggest that you schedule in a couple of blocks of homework time, even if you don't have any specific assignments yet to work on, so that when those group meetings are scheduled and when those assignments are announced, you've set aside some time to work on them. You might have to move that homework block to somewhere else in your week, but you've basically reserved some hours for it. Another tip is to remember that there are just some things that you can't schedule, like cooking and cleaning, for example. I do clean every Sunday, but the rest of the cleaning, like laundry or washing dishes, and all of my cooking just happens on an as-needed basis. So cooking and cleaning are not on my calendar, but I know from time tracking that each of those things takes me about 5 hours per week. So I know that I can't be packing my schedule with back-to-back-to-back events because that will leave no time for me to make food for myself or to wash plates to eat the food off of. The same goes for general buffer time. Unexpected things always come up, so you need some gaps in your schedule to account for that, or otherwise you will run out of time. Another thing you might want to try is having one unplanned day per week. So this is something I tried for a few weeks at the end of last semester. I called it my free Saturday. If I felt like working that day, I would get some work done. If I felt like relaxing or hanging out with friends, I would do that. The point is that I woke up Saturday morning and there was no schedule laid out for me. I think that's a really nice way to relieve some of the pressure that might build up over the course of a very structured, productive work week. And finally, I also like to do a midweek check-in. So on Wednesday, I set aside some time to look at how things are going, rearrange my schedule if needed, schedule some time for new things that have come up. So much changes throughout the week. That's very normal. So you might have to adjust your schedule a lot, but I still think that having a plan that ends up needing adjustment is so much better than having no plan at all. You can find this weekly planning routine and that groceries database that I showed you earlier and a bunch of other stuff in my Adulting Dashboard Notion template. You can get that from the description, as well as those monthly planning and weekly planning worksheets that I talked about. Lots of free resources, free things to download. I hope you enjoy all of that. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have an amazing week ahead of you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!